Marcus Hale had been a soldier for 7 long years, and he knew the sound of danger even before it showed itself. That morning, the desert planet of Irian 6 was calm, silent, almost peaceful. The sun hung heavy in the sky like a burning coin. Sand stretched in every direction, rolling like frozen waves. His boots sank into the hot ground with every step, and the wind moved slowly, whispering across the dunes. But there was something wrong. Marcus could feel it. The silence felt unnatural. He walked with his squad, 10 soldiers moving in a careful line. Their helmets reflected the golden light, and dust kicked up behind their feet. They had one mission: track a strange energy signal detected the night before. High Command believed it was enemy tech, maybe a new weapon, maybe a trap, but Marcus didn't think so. He had a feeling this signal was something else entirely. Sergeant Kira, walking beside him, nudged his arm. "You're quiet," she said. Marcus gave a half-smile. "Listening? For what?" "That's the problem," Marcus replied. "There's nothing to listen to." She frowned. "It's a desert. It's supposed to be quiet." "No," he said, "not like this." Ahead of the squad, Lieutenant Harris raised a hand, signaling everyone to stop. They froze instantly, weapons ready. "Something's interfering with comms again," Harris said. His voice was calm, but his jaw was tight. "Radio's dropping." Marcus tapped his earpiece. Static. No command signal, no satellite ping, no contact. It was like the entire planet was holding its breath. A strange signal. The night before, the Allied base had detected a pulse, a strange rhythmic signal coming from deep in the desert. It was unlike anything humans had ever seen. It wasn't sent in any known language, but it wasn't random either. There was a pattern, like it was calling to someone. Command thought it was enemy tech. Marcus thought it felt alive. Now, standing out in the open sand, he felt that same signal again, not in his ears but in his chest. A kind of low vibration, like a heartbeat under the ground. Lieutenant Harris looked back. "Marcus, you're on point. Take the lead." Marcus nodded and stepped forward. The sand was soft, warm, and glowing under the morning sun. His shadow stretched long behind him as he climbed the next dune. When he reached the top, he froze. The others climbed up behind him and stopped as soon as they saw it. Down below, half buried in sand, was a giant crater. It was not made by a weapon, not a missile, not a bomb. The crater was too smooth, too perfect, like something had landed there gently, not crashed. "It looks like impact marks," Kira whispered. Marcus shook his head. "No, more like a landing zone." They slid down the dune and walked toward the center. Heat shimmered in the air, twisting the view like melted glass. The sand was strangely cold here. Marcus knelt, running a hand across the ground. The sand wasn't burned, it was frozen. A chill ran through him. In the middle of a desert that could melt metal, this spot was ice cold. "What the hell?" one soldier murmured. Marcus stood up slowly. He felt something watching him, something close. The comm unit on Lieutenant Harris's wrist suddenly beeped. A tiny light blinked red. "Signal spike," Harris said. Eyes widening. "It's coming from—" A loud boom cut him off. The ground trembled. Sand spilled from the dunes as a shockwave rippled outward. Marcus grabbed onto Kira to keep his balance. The soldiers raised their rifles, forming a defensive circle. Something was rising from the center of the crater. Something tall, something glowing. A blue light cut through the dust. The temperature dropped sharply. Everyone's breath turned white in the air. "What is that?" Kira gasped. Marcus didn't know. But whatever it was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The sandstorm, without warning, the sky darkened. Clouds formed out of nowhere, swirling like a vortex. The wind screamed, lifting sand into the air. A sandstorm exploded around them, blinding everything in seconds. "Fall back," Harris shouted, but the storm was too strong. Sand hit them like bullets. Visibility dropped to 0. Marcus saw nothing but swirling gold and black. He held onto the squad rope, but the force of the storm ripped it from his hands. He shouted, "Kira, Harris, anyone?" No answer, only wind and then silence. The storm ended as suddenly as it began. Marcus stood alone. The desert around him was empty. His team was gone. No footprints, no shadows, nothing, as if the storm had swallowed them whole. Fear crawled up his spine. He wasn't afraid of being alone. He was afraid of whatever caused the storm. A soft glow appeared ahead of him. Marcus lifted his rifle and moved slowly toward the light. The Queen appears. The figure stood in the middle of the crater, glowing softly in the dim light. She was tall, elegant, and unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. Her skin was pale blue, almost shimmering. Her armor looked like it was carved from crystal and metal merged together. Her hair was long, braided in silver like moonlight. She was beautiful, but not human. Her crown looked like ice spikes, sharp and glowing. Her eyes were bright, cold, and intense. She lifted one finger, like telling him to stop. Marcus froze. She looked at him with curiosity, like she was studying him. Her voice echoed softly, not through the air, but inside his mind. "Are you alone, human?" Marcus's heart stopped. He wasn't sure how to answer. He wasn't sure he could answer. He lowered his rifle slightly, not out of trust, but because he knew it wouldn't help. She wasn't like any enemy he had faced. Marcus swallowed hard. He tried to speak. "Where is my squad?" he asked. The Queen tilted her head slightly, her expression unreadable. "Hidden," she said. "The storm took them away from danger." "Danger?" Marcus asked. "From what?" She took a slow step closer, her feet leaving frost marks on the sand. "From me or from what follows me?" Marcus felt a chill run through his bones. "What do you want?" he asked. The alien queen studied him for a long moment. Her eyes were deep, ancient, filled with memories older than any human civilization. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft but powerful. "I came here because your world is in danger, because your species is in danger." Marcus tried to steady his breathing. "Then why ask if I'm alone?" She raised her hand again, gently touching the air as if feeling something invisible. "Because everything begins with a single human and a single choice." Marcus took a small step forward. "I don't understand." The queen's expression softened, almost sad. "You will soon." Then she reached out a hand to him, not threatening, not aggressive, an invitation. Marcus hesitated. Every instinct screamed at him to stay back, but something inside him whispered, "This is important. This is destiny." He stepped forward. Their hands almost touched, and the ground erupted beneath them. The cry for help, a deep roar, ripped through the desert. The sand exploded upward like a geyser. Marcus jumped back, hitting the ground hard. The queen turned sharply, her eyes glowing brighter. From beneath the sand, dark shapes began to move. Long shadows twisted and crawled, emerging like monsters waking from a nightmare. The air filled with screeches, sharp, metallic cries that cut into Marcus's ears. "What are those things?" Marcus yelled. The queen didn't look away from the rising creatures. "The reason I came," she said quietly, "the reason your world is in danger." The creatures burst free, black, insect-like monsters with too many legs and glowing red eyes. Their bodies pulsed with a sickening blue energy. The queen spread her arms, and cold energy burst from her palms, forming a protective barrier around Marcus. He looked at her in shock. "You're protecting me." She nodded once. For now, more creatures crawled from the sand, dozens of them. Marcus lifted his rifle. The queen's voice echoed in his mind again. "Human, your story begins now." She looked at him with intensity. "Are you ready?" Marcus swallowed. His pulse raced, but he stood firm. "Yes." The queen smiled faintly, a warrior's smile. "Then fight beside me." And the battle for their survival began. It moved faster than Marcus thought possible. One moment it was crawling from the sand. The next, it was in the air, leaping toward the queen like a black arrow. Marcus fired without thinking. His rifle kicked against his shoulder. Blue blood sprayed into the air as the bullets tore into the creature's chest. It screamed, a high metallic sound, and crashed into the invisible shield around them. The queen did not flinch. Her hands were still raised, her fingers spread, holding the barrier in place. Frost lines spread across the air where the creature had hit it. The monster slid down, twitching, and then lay still. Marcus stared. He had killed many things in his life, but this was different. The creature's body was half organic, half metal. Its legs were too thin, its joints bending the wrong way. Its skin looked like wet stone. Blue energy pulsed inside its chest like a small cold heart made of light. Marcus swallowed. "What are these things?" he asked. The queen's eyes stayed focused on the others that were crawling from the sand. "They are called the Devourers," she said. "They eat worlds." More creatures rose, 10, 15, 20. Their red eyes glowed like coals in the shadows. Marcus checked his ammo. Not enough. The queen slowly lowered one hand and touched the barrier. It shrank, wrapping closer around the two of them. "I cannot hold the shield and fight them all," she said. "I must choose." Marcus knew what she meant. She could protect him or she could fight. He took a deep breath. "Drop it," he said. The queen turned her eyes on him. "If I do, you may die." Marcus gave a small, tired smile. "I'm a human soldier," he said. "We are not meant to die hiding." For the first time, something like respect flashed in her eyes. She lowered her hands. The barrier shattered like glass. Cold mist exploded outward. The creatures screeched and charged. "Move," Marcus shouted. He ran forward. Not away from the monsters, but toward them. The fight for the sand. The first creature lunged at him. Marcus slid to the side and fired into its open mouth. Teeth shattered. Blue light spilled from its throat. It fell twitching. Another attacked from the left. Marcus turned, but this one was too fast. A spear of ice shot past his head like a white blur. It pierced the creature's skull and slammed it into the sand. The queen walked past Marcus, her feet leaving frost with every step. Her hands glowed with sharp blue energy. She moved like a dancer, calm, precise, deadly. She threw a wave of ice at 3 creatures at once. They froze mid-leap, their bodies locked in crystal. A second later, they shattered, sand and frozen flesh exploding into the air. Marcus kept firing, his shots clean and controlled. One in the leg, one in the chest, one in the head. He didn't waste bullets. He didn't panic. The creatures circled them, testing weak spots. They moved like a pack, following some silent command. "They're learning," Marcus said. "They're changing formation." The queen noticed too, her voice echoed in his head. "They are part of a hive," she said. "One mind, many bodies." Marcus ducked as a creature jumped over him, heading for her. He slammed his shoulder into its side, knocking it off course. It hit the ground and rolled. He stepped on its neck and fired. Its head exploded. He felt sick, but he kept going. The queen lifted both arms. The temperature dropped again. The air turned white with ice crystals. She drew in breath, and for a moment Marcus saw something behind her calm face. Pain, exhaustion, loneliness. She unleashed a storm of sharp ice blades. They flew across the battlefield, cutting through monsters like knives through paper. Limbs flew, chests ripped open. Blue light spilled onto the sand like cold fire. In seconds, half of the creatures were dead, the rest stopped. They stood in silence, heads turning, red eyes flickering. Then, as if someone had whispered a new order, they began to retreat. One by one, they sank back into the sand and disappeared. Marcus kept his gun raised, breathing hard. "Are they running?" he asked. The queen lowered her hands. The glow faded from her fingers. The frost on the sand began to thin. "They are not running," she said. "They are waiting." Marcus wiped sweat and maybe fear from his brow. Waiting for what? She looked toward the far horizon where the sky met the dunes. For the rest of them. The meaning of alone, the silence returned, but it was different now, not empty, heavy. Marcus looked around. The battlefield was a mess of black limbs, frozen shards, and patches of blue energy slowly fading. The queen walked to one of the dead creatures and knelt beside it. She placed a hand on its chest. The blue light flickered once and died. Marcus watched her. "You've fought them before," he said. She nodded slowly. "On many worlds, and you lost?" he asked quietly. She paused. Her hand rested on the creature's cold body. "Yes." She stood up and faced him. Her eyes were no longer just powerful, they were tired. "They took my world," she said. "They took my people. They took everything." Marcus lowered his rifle. "How long have you been alone?" he asked. The queen looked at him for a long time. "Long enough that I do not count the years anymore." The words sank into him. Marcus had felt alone before, in war zones, in trenches, in dark rooms with only his gun and his orders. But that was nothing compared to this. She was not just one person left behind. She was the last of a civilization. He finally realized why her question had felt so heavy before. "Is that why you asked me if I was alone?" he said. Her gaze did not leave his. "Yes, I wanted to know if your fate had already begun." Marcus frowned. "What do you mean?" "The Devourers do not just eat planets," she said. "They eat bonds. They make you doubt. They make you fear. They push your kind to turn on each other until no one stands together." She walked closer to him, her ice armor glowing softly. "They do not win by strength alone. They win when a world answers yes to the question I asked you." Marcus remembered it clearly now. The first words she said to him, "Are you alone, human?" At that time, he thought she meant his squad, his team. Now he understood she was asking about something deeper. "Humans, we fight," Marcus said. "We argue, we mess up a lot, but we don't give up on each other that easily." She studied his face. "Your kind has never faced what is coming," she replied. "You say these words now, I wonder what you will say later." There was no insult in her voice, only a sad curiosity. The broken signal. Marcus checked his radio again, only static. He tried the emergency channel, nothing. His squad was still missing. He turned slowly, scanning the dunes. "Kira, Harris, anyone respond?" He called, no answer. He started walking in a circle, looking for footprints, gear, any sign. The desert looked clean, as if no one had ever walked there. Panic tried to rise inside his chest. He forced it down. The queen watched him silently. "The storm moved them," she said. "Far from here." Marcus turned to her sharply. "You know where they are?" She shook her head. "No, I only feel that they still live. The storm was my doing, but not my choice." He frowned. "What does that mean?" "This place is old," she said slowly. "There is power beneath the sand. I touched it to slow the Devourers. It answered me with the storm." Marcus looked down at the crater. "Power?" he asked. "Like a weapon?" She hesitated. "Something like that. A prison, a memory, a warning. I am not sure yet." He rubbed his face. "That's comforting." She didn't smile, but her eyes softened for a second, like she almost understood the joke. A small light blinked on his wrist screen. Marcus looked down quickly. The comm unit was catching something, a weak signal, broken but real. He turned the dial, trying to clean the sound. Through the static, he heard a voice. "Cuss, this is Raw. If you hear this, we are under attack." Marcus's eyes widened. "Kira," he shouted into the mic. "Kira, repeat your location." The signal cracked, faded, then came back. "North Ridge creatures, more of them." They then silence. Marcus clenched his teeth. He looked at the queen. "My team is alive," he said, "but not safe." She nodded. "Then your path is clear." The choice. The sand crunched under his boots as Marcus walked toward the edge of the crater. He checked his ammo again, not enough. He checked his knife, still sharp. He checked his courage, also not enough, but he moved anyway. He heard the queen's steps behind him. "You're coming?" he asked. "Yes." He glanced back. "Why?" he asked. She met his gaze calmly. "Because your war is now my war." "That's simple," Marcus said. "No," she replied. "Nothing is ever simple. But I have seen many worlds die. I will not watch another from the sidelines." He nodded once. They began walking together, side by side, across the dune. The sun was starting to lower in the sky. Shadows grew long. The air felt heavy, as if the world itself was waiting. After a few minutes of silence, Marcus spoke again. "You never told me your name," he said. The queen was quiet for a moment. "My people called me Sereth," she said. "But to most races, I am only the queen." "Sereth," Marcus repeated. "I'm Marcus Hale." She inclined her head slightly. "Marcus Hale, human soldier. I will remember that." "You'd better," he said. "I'm not dying out here." For the first time, very faintly, her lips curved. Good, she said, I am tired of being alone. A shadow on the horizon. They climbed a tall dune. From the top, Marcus could see far across the desert. At first, everything looked normal: sand, rocks, hot air. Then he saw it, far in the distance, near the northern ridge. The sand was moving in one thick, dark line, not like wind, not like a storm, like a river. A river of crawling black shapes, the devourers, thousands of them, heading straight toward where his squad should be. His breath caught in his throat. The queen stared at the sight. Her eyes glowed brighter with anger and something deeper: fear. They have found your people, she said. This is only the first wave. Marcus tightened his grip on his rifle. His mind screamed that this was impossible, that two people could not fight that this was beyond any mission, beyond any war he had trained for. But his heart said something else. They're my team, I don't leave them. He looked at Sareth. You said everything begins with one human and one choice, he said. She nodded. Well, Marcus said, taking a breath, this is my choice. He stepped forward. We go save them. The queen looked at him for a long, quiet moment. Then she walked to his side. Then let us see, she said softly, if humans are truly as alone as my people were. Together they moved toward the coming darkness, and high above, unseen in the bright sky, something ancient watched them and waited. The desert wind grew colder as Marcus and Sareth walked toward the northern ridge. Every step made the sand crunch under their boots. Even Sareth's light footsteps left thin trails of frost behind her. The sun was dipping lower, turning the sky a deep orange that made the dunes bleed long shadows. But the beauty of the sunset didn't matter, not today, not with death crawling ahead of them like a dark ocean. Marcus kept his eyes fixed on the horizon. The long black line of devourers was growing wider. More creatures were joining the swarm every minute, rising out of the earth as if awakened by some silent command. Sareth walked beside him, silent but alert. Her glowing eyes never blinked. The wind blew her silver hair and small crystals floated around her like tiny stars. Marcus broke the silence first. How far to the ridge? He asked. Not far, Sareth said, but distance is not our true enemy. Marcus frowned. Then what is? She looked ahead, her voice quiet. The clock, he understood. His team was running out of time. Echoes under the sand, they reached the base of a tall dune, the highest one Marcus had ever seen. Its slope rose like a golden wall. They started climbing, the sand slipping under their boots. Halfway up, Marcus heard something, a faint vibration, like a heartbeat under the ground. He stopped. Sareth, do you feel that? She placed her hand on the sand. Frost spread in a circle under her palm. Her eyes closed. After a moment, she whispered, they are calling. Marcus tightened his grip on his rifle. Calling who? More devourers. She shook her head slowly. No, they are calling their mind. Marcus stared. Their mind. Sareth opened her eyes. There was fear inside them, real fear, not hidden behind her calm face. I told you before, they are a hive. All of them obey one mind, one will. And it's coming, Marcus asked. Sareth nodded. The queen of their hive, the brain of the swarm. The devourer mind. Marcus felt his stomach drop. How strong is it? She looked at him with a slow, sorrowful expression. Strong enough to end a world. Climbing into death, they pushed forward. The dune grew steeper, but they climbed fast because they had no other choice. As Marcus reached the top, he felt the breath leave his lungs. The northern ridge was chaos. Sandstorms spun like tornadoes. Fire flashed in the distance. Blue explosions burst into the air. The sky itself seemed to crack with shadows. And in the middle of all that, surrounded by half-buried rocks and broken metal, Marcus saw them, his squad. They were trapped inside a collapsed ridge structure, a small cave-like entrance half destroyed. Black creatures crawled on the outside, trying to break in. Marcus's heart slammed against his chest. Kira, Harris, his voice was swallowed by the wind. He didn't wait. He ran down the dune, almost tripping as he slid. Sareth followed him, gliding down like she was walking on ice. The devourers turned. Red eyes pointed toward the two figures on the dune, their bodies twisted and cracked, their legs sharpened, their chests pulsed with bright blue veins. Then they charged. A wave of black metal flesh monsters sprinted across the sand, fast as bullets. Marcus raised his rifle and fired as he ran, hitting one then another, then a third. Blue blood sprayed across the sand. Sareth lifted her hand. A storm of frost exploded outward, freezing several devourers midair. They shattered like glass when they hit the ground, but more came, dozens, hundreds, thousands behind them. Marcus's breath hitched. We can't stop all of them, Sareth's voice echoed calmly in his mind. Then we do not stop all, we stop enough. The ridge of screams, they reached the half-collapsed ridge. Kira, open up, Marcus shouted. Inside, he heard movement, then a familiar voice. Muffled. Marcus, that you? Relief hit him like water in a desert. Yes, it's me, open the damn door, Harris shouted. We tried, it's jammed. Sareth stepped forward, blue light glowed through her fingertips. Stand back, she said softly. She touched the broken stone. Ice spread like lightning, crawling over the rocks, freezing the cracks, pulling them apart. The ridge creaked, groaned, and then split open. Kira and Harris stumbled out with 3 other soldiers. Covered in dust and exhaustion, Kira grabbed Marcus. You're alive, thank God. Marcus laughed breathlessly. Didn't plan on dying today. Harris pointed at Sareth. Who the hell is that? Marcus looked at Sareth. Sareth looked at the soldiers. They stared back, unsure if they should aim their guns or bow. Marcus took a breath. She's an ally, he said, and she just saved your lives. Kira blinked. Ally, she looks like. A piercing shriek split the air. Everyone froze. The Devourers had reached the ridge. The Devourer mind arrives. The ground shook. The sand turned black. The creatures stopped suddenly, as if waiting. Marcus felt cold crawl up his spine. Why did they stop? Sareth's voice was a whisper of dread. Because she is here. From behind the swarm, the sand bulged upward, rising like a massive hill. Cracks spread through the ground. A huge shape pushed upward, then something enormous burst from the sand. It stood taller than a tower. Its body black and pulsing with red energy. Its face was smooth, no eyes, no mouth, just a shifting mask of living metal. But Marcus felt its mind pressing into the air like a storm. Every devourer bowed in perfect unison. Kira whispered, voice shaking, Marcus, what is that? Sareth stepped forward, frost forming under her feet. The devourer mind, she said, the queen of their hive. The ground trembled as the massive creature moved one step forward. Its voice wasn't a sound, it was a pressure inside the skull, hard, heavy, crushing. Sareth stiffened. Marcus could feel the force of that voice. It wasn't words, it was a command, a threat, a memory of death. Sareth whispered, it remembers me. Harris looked confused. Remembers you how? Sareth's voice was sharp and cold. Because my people fought it and lost. The giant creature raised its arm, the devourers around it screeched. Marcus shouted, move. Black energy ripped across the ridge, smashing rocks, tearing the air open. The soldiers ducked, rolling behind what little cover remained. Sareth lifted both arms. A wall of ice exploded upward, blocking the attack at the last second. The black energy slammed into it and shattered the top of the ridge. Marcus peeked out. The devourer mind was charging again. Kira, Harris, get everyone into position, Marcus shouted. Harris nodded. We hold the ridge. Sareth looked at Marcus. Human, you cannot fight this thing. Marcus gripped his rifle. I can't run either. For the first time, Sareth didn't argue. She stepped closer, standing shoulder to shoulder with him. Then we fight together. The turning point, the devourer mind unleashed another wave of dark energy. Sareth countered with a storm of ice spikes. The clash of power sent shockwaves across the desert, throwing sand into the air like a waterfall. Marcus fired at the smaller creatures, hitting every target with brutal precision. Kira and Harris covered the flanks. Two soldiers tossed grenades into the swarm, blowing gaps into the line. The air filled with smoke, frost, screams, and red light. Still the devourers came. Still the massive queen pushed forward. Marcus yelled, Sareth, we're getting overrun. Sareth didn't respond because she wasn't looking at the creatures anymore. She was staring at the devourer mind. Her voice trembled. It carries something I have felt before. Marcus looked at her. What do you mean? She whispered, my people, part of them still live inside it. Marcus froze. You mean it has taken their memories, their voices, their souls? The devourer mind roared in silent fury. Sareth's eyes filled with emotion Marcus had never seen from her, grief, anger, and something fragile. She whispered, I hear my sister's voice inside it. Marcus's chest tightened before he could speak. The devourer mind lifted both arms. Red energy gathered like a storm. Sareth whispered, this next attack will kill us all. Marcus grabbed her wrist. No, you're not dying here. We're not letting that happen. Her eyes met his. For a second, only a second, she looked almost human. Then choose, Marcus hailed. The sky turned red, the ground shook, the devourer mind unleashed its power. Marcus shouted, we fight. And the world exploded. The canyon floor trembled again. Dust fell from the rock walls like rain. The shadows stretched, twisting slowly as something massive moved inside the darkness. Marcus kept his rifle ready, but his hands trembled. He couldn't help it. Every survival instinct screamed at him that this was not a normal enemy. This was something ancient, something that had slept for centuries, maybe longer, and now had opened its eyes again. Sareth stood beside him, calm but tense. Her armor glowed faintly, casting a cold blue light across the canyon. She lifted her chin, staring toward the dark cavern where the creature waited. Marcus swallowed hard. Oh great, he whispered. Another stupid alien monster trying to kill us. Sareth didn't look away from the darkness. This one is not stupid, she said softly. It is older than every world I have seen, older than your son. Comforting, Marcus muttered, but there was no time to think. A deep, rumbling growl echoed from the cavern like the sound of mountains grinding together. The ancient creature was waking. The shape in the darkness. Marcus stepped closer, trying to see inside. A faint glow pulsed like slow lightning beneath the creature's skin, not bright, not hot, more like molten gold trapped inside stone. Sareth, Marcus said, keeping his voice low, is this thing alive or mechanical? Sareth's eyes narrowed. Both, Marcus whispered. Like the Devourers? Worse, Sareth said. This is the mind that commands them. The Devourers are its children. Marcus blinked, stunned. So it's the boss? Sareth nodded once. It is called the Primarch. A shiver ran down Marcus's spine. And how big is this Primarch exactly? Sareth hesitated, never a good sign, big enough that I have only seen fragments of it at one time. Marcus stared at her. What does that even mean? It does not live like creatures normally do, she explained. It spreads itself across worlds, only a piece of it sleeps here. Marcus's breathing grew faster, so that shadow in the cave, that's just a piece of it. Yes, Marcus felt his stomach twist. Great, just great. The squad in the cave. Kira's voice called out again from the cave high above them. "Marcus, that thing is right outside. Don't come down, it'll kill you." Marcus shouted upward, "Kira, hang on." "I'm coming to." The ground shook violently. The Primarch moved. A huge claw-like limb slid out of the darkness. It wasn't flesh, it wasn't metal, it was something in between, a twisting structure of black stone with golden light pulsing through cracks. Marcus stepped back instinctively. "What the hell is that?" Sareth spoke quietly. "It's arm. That's an arm," Marcus cried. He had seen tanks smaller than that. The limb dragged across the canyon floor, sending up sparks and dust. The air around it grew cold and heavy, as if gravity itself shifted. Kira shouted again, panic rising in her voice. "Marcus, get out of there." Marcus ignored her. His eyes stayed locked on the Primarch. "Sareth," he said, "how do we kill this thing?" Sareth was silent for a long moment, too long. Finally, she said, "I do not know." Marcus groaned. "Perfect." The first strike, another limb emerged, then another. A massive head rose slowly from the cave. No eyes, no mouth. Just a smooth, curved surface with golden cracks running across it like veins. It wasn't a face, it was a mask. Marcus whispered, "It's looking at us." Sareth shook her head. "No, it does not look. It senses. It feels minds like yours." "Great, it's psychic." "Worse." "Stop saying worse," Marcus snapped. "Every time you say it, something terrible happens." Before she could answer, the Primarch's mask pulsed with golden light. Marcus barely had time to shout, "Move." A shockwave blasted out, smashing into the canyon walls like an explosion of pure force. Marcus flew backward, hitting the ground so hard the air rushed from his lungs. Rocks rained down, the sky blurred, his ears rang, his vision spun, he tasted blood. Sareth landed beside him, her armor cracked from the impact. She gasped, cold air spilling from her lips as she pushed herself up. Marcus blinked hard, struggling to stand. "That thing hits like a planet," he choked out. Sareth steadied him. "That was not an attack." Marcus stared at her. "What do you mean that wasn't an attack? It threw a canyon at us." Sareth shook her head. "It was a greeting." Marcus froze. If that was a greeting, he didn't want to see an attack. A queen's fear. Sareth stood slowly, raising both hands. Blue light gathered around her palms. Frost began spreading across the sand around her feet. Marcus looked at her carefully. "You're afraid." Sareth didn't respond, but the slight tremble in her breath said enough. "You've fought it before," Marcus said quietly. Sareth closed her eyes. "Not this one, but another like it." "What happened?" Her voice cracked just a little. "We fought for 3 days, my entire army, every soldier, every mage, every weapon we had." Marcus swallowed, "And in the end the Primarch walked away and my people did not." Marcus felt his chest tighten. This enemy wasn't strong, it was unstoppable. For a second, the idea of running crossed his mind. Just a second, but then he heard Kira's voice again. "Marcus, please," and everything inside him snapped into place. No fear, no hesitation, just resolve. "We're not running," Marcus said. Sareth slowly turned to him. Her eyes softened, the look of someone who had fought alone for too long. "Then we stand together." Strategy of the desperate. The Primarch moved another limb, dragging itself further out of the cavern. Ground cracked beneath its weight. The air vibrated. Marcus scanned the area quickly. "Okay, think we can't kill it head on, not even close, so what do we do?" Sareth placed a hand on the ground. Frost spread outward like a white web. "The canyon is old, weak in places." Marcus blinked. "You're saying we don't kill it, we bury it?" Sareth nodded. "A temporary prison, one that might give us time." Marcus looked up at the canyon walls, tall, cracked, heavy. "If they brought those walls down, it might work," Marcus said. Sareth corrected softly, "It must work." The Primarch let out another low, rumbling growl as if sensing their plan. "All right," Marcus said, breathing hard. "I'll force it backward. You freeze the walls." Sareth looked at him sharply. "You will die if you face it alone." Marcus smiled weakly. "Lucky for me, I'm never alone anymore." For the first time, Sareth almost smiled back. "Then go," Marcus hailed. "I will be with you." Marcus charges the impossible. Every instinct screamed RUN. Marcus ignored them all. He sprinted straight toward the Primarch. The creature's mask glowed brighter. Sand lifted into the air as gravity distorted. Rocks floated like weightless dust. Marcus fired his rifle, bullets sparking off the Primarch's armored hide. The creature didn't flinch. Marcus didn't expect it to. He wasn't trying to hurt it. He was trying to get its attention. The Primarch's massive head turned toward him. Golden cracks flared. Marcus dove behind a rock as a blast of force ripped through the ground where he had stood seconds earlier. Sand exploded upward. The shockwave threw boulders like toys. Marcus shouted over the noise. "Now, Sareth." Ice erupted along the canyon walls. Cracks spread. Rocks trembled. Sareth raised both hands, shouting in her strange ancient language. The cold around her grew so strong the air froze in place, forming crystals that sparkled like stars. The canyon walls began to collapse. The Primarch turned too slow. A massive chunk of the cliff struck its side. Stone shattered. Sparks flew. The creature screamed a deep, horrible sound that shook Marcus's bones. Another section of the canyon wall fell, and another, and another. The Primarch tried to rise, but the falling stone buried its limbs, then its mask, then its body. The entire canyon thundered as tons of rock crashed down. Dust filled the air, then silence. Marcus collapsed to his knees, coughing. Sereth floated down beside him, exhausted. Her armor dimmed, frost melted off her arms. Marcus looked up at the mountain of stone. Did we kill it? Sereth shook her head slowly. No, Marcus exhaled shakily. Of course not. Sereth placed a hand on his shoulder. But we made it sleep again. That is enough for now. Marcus nodded, breath slowing, then he heard footsteps, familiar ones. Kira and the rest of his squad rushed toward him from the cave. Marcus, you're alive. He managed a smile. Yeah, for now. Sereth watched the humans reunite. A strange expression crossed her face, something between longing and sadness. Marcus noticed. He stepped forward. You're part of this team now, he said. You're not alone anymore. Sereth looked away. For your sake, she whispered, I hope you are right. The dust from the collapsed canyon began to settle, drifting through the twilight air like gray snow. Marcus wiped the grit from his face as the last echoes faded into silence. His squad climbed down the remaining rocks and sprinted toward him. Kira reached him first, breathing hard, relief pouring off her. Marcus, I thought that thing crushed you. It tried, Marcus said, managing a weak smile. But Sereth and I convinced it to take a nap. Kira blinked. Sereth, Marcus stepped aside so the squad could see the queen. Sereth stood tall, silver braids shining in the dim light, armor cracked in places from the fight. Cold air swirled around her like mist. The squad froze. Jensen whispered, Marcus, why is an ice alien princess standing behind you like she runs the place? She kind of does, Marcus said. Sereth watched them with calm, unreadable eyes. She looked like a queen trying to understand a room full of children. Kira raised her weapon slightly. Is she friendly? Marcus glanced at Sereth and then back at his team. She saved my life, and yours too, probably. Sereth bowed her head slightly. Your lives are valuable, she said. More valuable than you know. The squad looked at Marcus for explanation. He sighed. Everyone meet Sereth, last queen of her people, enemy of the Devourers, owes me for dragging her into a canyon with a god monster. Sereth blinked. That is not how I would describe it. Yura lowered her weapon slowly. Okay, Sereth, thanks for not killing us. Sereth studied her, then nodded once. I have no wish to harm humans. Jensen muttered under his breath. She talks like a video game boss who wants to give a side quest. Sereth's head tilted. I do not know this video game, but I am not here to give games. I am here because your world may not survive. Everyone went silent. A queen among soldiers, the squad formed a loose circle. Catching their breath, the sky had darkened completely, leaving only a silver moon above. Marcus leaned against a rock, exhausted. Kira crouched beside him. What happened out here? She asked. We got hit by that sandstorm, it felt alive, then we were chased by those crawling nightmares, we took shelter, then that giant thing showed up. Marcus rubbed his face, it felt like he had aged 10 years in 1 hour. Short version, he said. We met the queen of an extinct race, fought a swarm of planet eaters, faced their god, buried it, now we're running out of time. Kira stared at him, and the long version, you don't want the long version. She sighed, fair. Sereth stepped closer, her presence chilled the air slightly, the squad tensed but didn't back away. Your squad survived because the canyon protected them, she said, but the Devourers will return, and the Primarch will not sleep for long. Jensen crossed his arms. So you're saying we just buried an ancient monster and bought ourselves, what, 5 minutes? Sereth looked at him calmly, more than 5, perhaps an hour. Jensen groaned, oh great, a whole hour before doom. Sereth blinked. Doom? Marcus stepped in before she could ask more questions. Sereth, what happens when the Primarch fully wakes? She turned toward the enormous pile of fallen rock. It calls the rest of itself. Marcus froze. Wait. The rest? The Primarch is spread across many worlds, Sereth said quietly. It grows like a tree with roots in every planet it touches. What sleeps here is a root, not the trunk. The squad stared at her horrified. Kira whispered, how do you fight something like that? Sereth lowered her eyes. You survive it or you die with your world. Marcus clenched his fists. No, not happening, not while he breathed. Echoes beneath their feet before anyone could respond. The sphere, the small floating relic, rose from the canyon floor and drifted toward Sereth. It pulsed softly. Sereth closed her eyes and touched it. Whispered energy vibrated through the air. Marcus stepped closer. It's talking to you again. Sereth nodded. This place remembers more than I thought. The sphere projected another hologram. The squad stepped back as glowing images formed above the canyon. A tall structure appeared, something like a temple made of crystal and light. Inside it burned a giant orb of swirling gold and blue energy. This, Sereth whispered, was the heart of Irian. A power source, Marcus asked. Not just power, Sereth said. A shield, a weapon, a living memory of the planet itself. The hologram shifted. They saw alien figures, tall, crystalline beings surrounding the heart, channeling energy from it. But then the image darkened. The Devourers came, the planet fell, the heart flickered, faded, died. Marcus looked at Sereth. Is the heart still here? Sereth's expression tightened. It is broken, but not gone. Jensen whispered, broken things can be dangerous. Sereth nodded, and useful. Marcus stepped forward. Can it help us fight the Primarch? Sereth hesitated, then said something that made Marcus's chest tighten. It might help us escape. Marcus frowned. Escape, you mean abandon this planet? Sareth looked away. To survive, sometimes you must leave a doomed world behind. Marcus felt heat rise in his chest. Not happening, he growled. Not my squad, not my species, not my planet. Sareth met his eyes. I admire your courage, Marcus, but courage alone does not stop extinction. A leader's weight. The squad watched the two of them quietly. Kira stepped forward. Marcus, she's not saying to give up. She's saying we need a plan. Marcus's jaw tightened. Sareth stepped close to him. Marcus, hail, she said gently. You carry your people's strength, but you also carry their stubbornness. He stared at her. That stubbornness kept us alive today, he said. Her gaze softened. And it may save your world, but only if you learn when to fight and when to think. He opened his mouth to argue, but she raised a cold, glowing hand. Listen. Marcus fell silent. Sareth's voice dropped, quiet and heavy with emotion. I failed my own people because I thought I knew everything. I ignored warnings. I charged into battles I could not win. I was brave and foolish. Her eyes glimmered with sorrow. Do not follow my path. Learn from it. Marcus didn't answer. He turned away, staring at the collapsed canyon where the Primarch slept beneath the stone. He hated running. He hated hiding. He hated the idea of retreat, but above all, he hated losing people. Finally, he spoke. If we find the heart, Marcus said slowly, can we use it to protect this world? Sareth took a long, deep breath. Yes, if we repair it, if we awaken it. Marcus turned sharply. You can do that. Sareth looked uncertain and for the first time fragile, perhaps with help. Marcus nodded once. Then that's our next move. The canyon shifts. Before the squad could breathe sighs of relief, the ground shook again, softly at first, then violently. Marcus spun around. The pile of rocks above the Primarch pulsed, bright gold leaking through the cracks. Jensen shouted, it's waking again already. Sareth's expression turned sharp. No, this is something else. The ground split open along the canyon floor. A long, narrow crack stretched like a glowing wound across the desert. Marcus stepped back instinctively. What now? Sareth stared at the crack. Her voice dropped to a whisper. A door, Marcus echoed. To the heart. The squad exchanged looks. Kira swallowed. So the planet is helping us. Sareth nodded once. This world died with honor. It wants a second chance. Marcus felt something stir inside him. Hope, real hope. Then let's go, he said, but Sareth didn't move. She stared at the crack like she saw something the others couldn't. Marcus touched her arm. Sareth, her voice trembled. This place remembers my failure, and it asks me if I will fail again. Marcus stood in front of her. You won't, he said, not this time. Sareth met his gaze. For the first time, she let the wall around her emotions lower. Then lead us, Marcus, hail, and together, queen and soldier, alien and human, they stepped toward the glowing crack in the earth, unaware that something was watching them from deep beneath the planet's crust, something older than the Primarch and far more dangerous. The crack in the earth glowed like a living wound. Golden light pulsed inside it, bright enough to paint the canyon walls. The hot desert air cooled instantly, replaced by a faint humming sound, strange, soft, almost musical. Marcus stood at the edge of the crack with his squad behind him and Sareth beside him. He felt the vibration beneath his boots. It didn't feel like rock, it felt alive. Kira leaned forward carefully. Marcus, this thing goes deep, really deep. Jensen swallowed. Yeah. I'm not climbing into some glowing alien crevice. I've seen horror movies. Sareth raised her hand, her palm glowed with blue energy. Step back. Everyone moved away. She lowered her hand toward the crack and the earth responded instantly. The glowing line widened, stone peeling back like petals opening. A staircase of crystal formed downward, lit by golden veins in the rock. Marcus blinked. That is new. Sareth nodded. The world remembers me. Jensen muttered. I hope it remembers you fondly. Marcus took a breath. All right, everyone stay sharp. We don't know what's down there. Sareth stepped in front of him. No, I will lead. This place may test us. Marcus hesitated, then nodded. Lead the way, Sareth. She stepped onto the glowing stairs, and the others followed her into the crack. Descent into memory, the stairs spiraled downward for what felt like forever. Golden light flowed around them like slow rivers under glass. The deeper they went, the more the air changed, warmer, heavier, filled with a faint scent like burned metal and rain. Marcus tried to stay focused, but he felt something brushing against his mind, not like a voice, more like memories, someone else's memories. Images flashed in his mind, towering cities made of crystal, alien faces smiling, children running through glowing halls, an entire world filled with light. He stumbled slightly. Kira grabbed his arm. Marcus. You good? Yeah, he muttered. Just deja vu. Sareth looked over her shoulder. This place speaks to those who listen, she said, but it speaks strongest to the one with the most questions. Marcus frowned. Why me? Her answer was soft, because you wonder if humanity is worth saving. He stopped. The squad stared at him. Marcus opened his mouth, then closed it again. Sareth continued walking. Marcus followed in silence. The chamber of echoes at last. Stairs ended. They stepped into a massive underground chamber, so wide that Marcus felt small just standing in it. The walls were covered in glowing symbols, shifting like water. Blue lights floated through the air like silent fireflies. Whoa, Jensen whispered. This is insane. Kira turned slowly. Feels like stepping inside a giant computer. Sareth walked to the center of the chamber and placed her hand on a crystal pillar. It pulsed gently. This is not a computer. She said, it is the memory of a world. Marcus approached the pillar. Is this part of the heart? Sareth shook her head, a doorway to it. Marcus frowned. Then where is the ground rumbled beneath them. A circle of stone in the center of the room cracked open, lowering into the floor like an elevator. Golden light burst upward from below. Kira shielded her eyes. What the hell? Marcus stepped closer and saw it. The broken heart, the heart of Irian, wasn't a machine. It wasn't a crystal. It wasn't even a single shape. It was a swirling mass of golden blue energy suspended between spiraling rings of alien metal. It looked like a star that had been captured mid-explosion, but something was wrong. Cracks covered the rings, energy leaked out in chaotic sparks, the core flickered like a dying flame. Marcus felt a pang in his chest, not fear but sadness. This was beautiful once. Sareth stepped beside him, her voice soft with old grief. It still is, but it is wounded. Jensen frowned. Can we fix it? Sareth's face tightened. Perhaps, but something is draining it, something below us. Marcus frowned. Below us there's more. Sareth nodded. The heart is the surface of much deeper wound. Kira muttered, great, more wounds. Marcus looked around. The chamber was massive, too massive for something this damaged to survive inside it. Sareth, he said, if the heart dies, what happens? She didn't look at him. Then this planet dies with it. And the Primarch, Marcus pressed, it awakens fully, it calls its true body, and the Devourers will swarm your world. The squad went silent. Marcus's jaw tightened. We're fixing it now, tell us what to do. Sareth closed her eyes. For a moment she did not speak. Then we must descend deeper. Marcus groaned. How deep? Sareth opened her eyes. As deep as the world's memory reaches. Jensen whispered. Why does she always say stuff like that? A warning from the past before they could move. The chamber filled with a sudden sharp hum. The floating lights froze in place. The heart flickered violently. The crystal walls brightened. Then a hologram ignited in the center of the room. A figure appeared, tall, alien, made of light. It was shaped like the beings from the earlier hologram, tall, crystal-bodied race, elegant and shimmering. Sareth stepped forward, stunned. A recorder. Marcus raised his rifle slightly. Is it dangerous? Sareth shook her head. Her face was a mix of pain and awe. It is the last echo of the ones who once protected this world. The recorder turned toward Sareth. Its voice was layered. Ancient Queen Sareth, you have returned. The squad stared in shock. Marcus stepped forward. It knows you. Sareth lowered her head. I failed its people. The recorder continued. The heart collapses. The devourer root rises. The world dies. You must descend to the core. Marcus frowned. Core of what? The recorder turned toward him. The core of the planet, the oldest place, the first memory. Kira whispered, we're going to the middle of the planet. Fantastic. Marcus looked at Sareth. Why didn't you tell us this was the plan? Sareth stared at the hologram with fear in her eyes, real fear, because I did not think the core still lived. The recorder's voice deepened. Beware, Queen Sareth. Something waits in the core, something that remembers your voice. Sareth stiffened. Marcus caught the look on her face, something dark, something old, something guilty. Sareth, he said quietly, what's down there? Her answer was barely a whisper, the first devourer. Marcus felt the world tilt. You mean, not the Primarch? She turned toward him, the thing that created the Primarch. Footsteps in the deep, the floor beneath them opened again, revealing a stone path leading downward into thick darkness. A cold wind rose from below, carrying strange whispers. Marcus tightened his grip on his rifle. Everyone ready? He asked. His squad nodded nervously. Sareth stepped ahead of them, her glow brightening the tunnel. Marcus moved beside her. You seem shaken. Sareth did not look at him. I knew the core held secrets. I did not know it held that. Marcus stepped closer. Sareth, what did you face down there before? She closed her eyes. The first voice the Devourers ever had, the one that tempted the Primarch, the one that spoke to me. Marcus froze. It spoke to you. Sareth nodded. It tried to make me join it, to give up my people, to let my world fall so it could feed. Marcus felt anger rise in him, and you refused. Sareth opened her eyes. I refused, and the Devourers killed my world in return. Marcus's jaw tight. He placed a hand on her arm, steady, reassuring. You're not facing it alone this time. Sareth stared at him, her eyes softened. For the first time she looked almost human. Thank you, Marcus. Hail. The ground shook again. The tunnel pulsed with golden light. A distant roar echoed from far below. Jensen whispered, voice shaking. What was that? Sareth answered quietly, the core waking up. Marcus took a breath. Let's move. And together, soldier, queen, and squad, they stepped into the ancient darkness beneath the world, unaware that the true enemy was waiting for them in the deep. The tunnel leading to the core was colder than anything Marcus had ever felt. Not winter cold, not ice cold. This was a cold that felt alive, like something in the shadows was breathing against his skin. The walls glowed faintly with lines of gold and blue pulsing like veins under stone. Every pulse felt like the planet's heartbeat, weaky, tired, scared. Marcus walked beside Sareth, while Kira, Jensen, and the rest of the squad followed close behind. Their footsteps echoed through the darkness. It feels like the cave is watching us, Kira whispered. Jensen nodded quickly. Yeah, well, if it wants to watch someone else instead, I'm cool with that. Sareth slowed down. Speak softly, she warned. The core listens. Marcus frowned. Listens to what? Her voice dropped to a whisper. To fear and to hope. Before anyone could answer, the tunnel suddenly widened into another massive chamber, and they all froze. The core awakens. The core chamber made the heart chamber look tiny. It was large enough to swallow whole cities. The walls curved upward like the inside of a glass planet. Floating pillars of light drifted through the air, spinning slowly like glowing comets. In the center of the chamber, a huge sphere of black stone hung suspended by golden chains made of pure energy. The sphere shook slightly every few seconds as if something inside it wanted to break free. Marcus whispered, "Is that the first devourer?" Sareth shook her head. "No, that is its prison." Kira swallowed. "So where's the monster?" Sareth didn't answer because she didn't need to. A deep voice echoed inside the chamber, not through their ears, but inside their minds. Sareth. Marcus staggered backward. His squad gasped. The voice sounded ancient, hungry, calm in a way that made his skin crawl. Sareth's face went still like she had turned to stone. Marcus looked at her sharply. "Sareth," her lips moved barely. "It remembers me." The sphere pulsed again. "You returned to me," the voice whispered. "My lost queen." Marcus whipped his head toward the sphere. "Lost what?" The voice laughed softly, a low, rumbling sound like mountains collapsing. "She never told you, human." Sareth stepped forward. "Enough," she said, her voice shaking. "You speak lies." "Lies," the voice echoed. "Was it a lie when I offered you power, when I offered to spare your world, when I offered you a throne beside me?" Marcus's eyes widened. "Sareth, you worked with this thing?" Sareth turned sharply. Pain flickered across her face. "No, I refused," the devourer whispered. "You refused too late." Sareth clenched her fists. "I will not listen to you." Not again. The sphere cracked slightly, a thin golden line splitting across its surface. Marcus stepped in front of Sareth. "Whatever this thing is trying, don't listen. It wants you broken." Sareth's voice softened. "I know," but Marcus saw it, the fear behind her eyes. Whatever happened in her past, the first devourer had haunted her for centuries. The truth of the fall. The sphere pulsed again, brighter. "Human, you seek answers." Marcus raised his gun. "I don't take advice from rocks." The voice laughed again. "Let me show you the truth." A blast of golden light shot out of the sphere. Marcus shielded his eyes. When he looked again, the chamber had changed. It was no longer stone and light. It was a battlefield, a vision. They saw Sareth's world, tall towers burning, skies filled with swarms of devourers, her people fighting and dying by the thousands. Soldiers made of light, children running, families screaming. Marcus watched as younger Sareth stood on a tall platform, her armor shining brilliantly. She raised a staff of crystal and unleashed a storm of frost that froze entire waves of devourers. But it wasn't enough. The world crumbled. The first devourer's voice echoed. She begged me for help. Younger Sareth turned toward a golden rift in the sky. A massive shadow like the Primarch, but larger, reached toward her. She fell to her knees in despair. "She asked me to save her people." Marcus looked at Sareth in the present. Her face was pale, her body shaking. "Sareth," he whispered, "tell me this isn't true." Her voice trembled. "I asked for mercy. I asked for peace. I was desperate." The first devourer spoke, and I agreed on one condition. Marcus swallowed. "What condition?" Sareth's eyes filled with tears, not weakness, but thousands of years of guilt. "It asked me to surrender my soul, to let it use me as a weapon, to let it control my will." Jensen whispered. "Holy hell." Kira stepped forward. "You didn't agree, did you?" Sareth closed her eyes. "I almost did." Marcus stared at her, stunned. Sareth continued, voice cracking. "I said no. At the last moment I refused. I chose my people. I chose my world." "But," Marcus asked. Sareth looked at him with grief heavy in her eyes. "But the devourer punished me for refusing." The vision shifted again. Sareth's people were wiped away, not slowly, but instantly. A wave of black flames swept across the world, killing every living thing in seconds. Marcus gasped. The Queen of Ice watched her world die alone. The devourer whispered, "And that Marcus Hale is why she is the last of her kind." The devourer's offer, the vision faded. They were back in the core chamber. Marcus's heart pounded. Sareth stood like a statue, cold and shaking. Marcus stepped toward her and grabbed her shoulders gently. "Sareth," he said softly, "you didn't kill your world, that thing did." She looked at him, tears frozen on her cheeks. "But I brought it. I led it to my home. I thought I could reason with it." Marcus shook his head. "No, you were manipulated and you tried to save your people. That's what matters." Her breathing steadied slightly. Behind them the devourer chuckled, touching. Marcus glared at the sphere. "Shut up." The cracks on the sphere glowed brighter. "Human, you are interesting, brave, loyal, foolish. I offer you the same thing I once offered Sareth." Marcus raised his gun, not interested. "Power, victory, the survival of your species." Marcus's jaw tightened, still not interested. The devourer's voice deepened. "Even if it means saving the lives of your friends." The squad stiffened. Kira whispered, "Marcus." Marcus held up a hand to silence her. "What do you want?" he asked coldly. The devourer pulsed. "Bring me Sareth." Marcus didn't hesitate. "No, then I will take her." The ground shook violently. Stone peeled away from the walls. Golden cracks spread across the floor. Sareth stepped protectively in front of Marcus and the squad. "Stay behind me." The devourer's voice grew louder, shaking dust from the ceiling. "You cannot run from me again, Sareth." Sareth lifted both arms. Frost exploded outward, forming a massive barrier of shimmering ice between them and the sphere. Marcus stared at her. She looked like a warrior queen, beautiful, terrifying, determined. This time, she whispered, I will not run. The unseen enemy, a low rumble rose from beneath them. Marcus frowned. Sareth, what's happening? She didn't answer, because the answer came from the core itself. The golden cracks on the sphere pulsed, then spread outward across the floor, down the tunnel, up the stairs like the planet itself was waking. Kira shouted, what does that mean? Sareth turned face pale. The heart is failing, the core is breaking, the first devourer is waking fully. Jensen stepped back. Then what do we do? Sareth looked at Marcus, not with fear but trust. We go deeper. Marcus recoiled. Deeper? Yes, she said firmly. Because the only way to defeat the first devourer, she stepped toward the sphere. Her voice became a whisper of ice, is to reach its true body before it awakens. Marcus stared at her, understanding the truth. This wasn't the final battle. This was the beginning. He nodded slowly. Then lead us, Sareth, we follow you. Her eyes softened. Thank you, Marcus, hail. She raised both arms, and the floor beneath them opened into a swirling vortex of gold and black. The squad screamed. Marcus grabbed Sareth's hand. They fell together down into the oldest darkness.